Excited for you to be joining us today. It's just a special time here, especially in the States. We're celebrating the Memorial Day weekend and it's also graduation season. So, a lot of excitement in the air. And I'm very excited to be here with you today to talk to our wonderful, beautiful, fantastic, just powerhouse of a guest today, Reverend Gloria. She is going to talk to us about our topic today, which is healing from generational trauma. So we're just going to wait a moment to give more people to join, and then we're going to bring her to the stage and get this discussion started because you are not going to want to miss this. Let us know where you are watching us from. Where are you today? Remember, we are here to support and love on all of our brothers and sisters across the diaspora. So we will be very curious to know, where are you watching from today and which platform are you on today? We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, and we are on YouTube streaming live. So thank you so much for joining us. Please remember to let us know where you are watching us from. And today, our topic is healing from generational trauma. And here we have our beautiful guest, Reverend Gloria. Reverend Gloria, welcome.
Thank you, Alafia.
Yeah, so I know that we are going to have this discussion today with you as our expert guest. So we just wanted to get started with some ritualistic things that you wanted to start off with prayer and some other things you wanted to start with.
Okay, thank you very much. Greetings, everybody. I greet you in my traditional language, Alafia. Um, my name is Gloria Tino Gumbadejo, and I'm from Nigeria, the Yoruba culture and traditions. I'm an ordained minister, ancestral healing practitioner, writer, transpersonal indigenous of what I would call prayer and libations. So join me. I will pray in English and then I'll have a short prayer in Yoruba. Beloved Creator, Olodumare, divine source of all that was, is, and will be, we call on the wisdom of our ancestors, the ones who dreamed us into being, those whose voices still echo through our bones, our bodies. May we be vessels of truth, healing, and restoration. Let every word spoken today fall like sacred rain on parched earth. We ask for courage, clarity, and compassion. Let our pain become the doorway to purpose. May it be so. Ashe. Ìbà yeye, ìbà bàbá, a dúpẹ́ fún ayé fún ẹ̀mí tí àtọ̀run wá, kí gbogbo ohun tí a bá sọ lónìí jẹ́ kó jẹ́ sí ìwòsàn àti ìmọ́lẹ̀ fún gbogbo ènìyàn. Kí àwọn bàbá àti àwọn ìyá láti títí ayé máa tọ́ wa sí rere. Àṣẹ, àṣẹ, àṣẹ. Thank you.
Ashe, thank you for that beautiful introduction and beautiful prayer. Well, Reverend Gloria, we know that you are, you know, first of all, you're a mother. You're an ordained minister, you're a writer, and so much more. But most importantly, today, you are an expert in the area of healing generational trauma. So, if you could just introduce yourself and give us a little bit more about your background and just briefly tell us, how did you become an expert in such a unique area for talking about healing, because that's not something that a lot of people have the knowledge of or the language to even talk about, but you have this depth of knowledge in this very unique area. Just give us a little extra about your background.
Okay, thank you, sister. First of all, I'm one of those people who is never comfortable in being called an expert on anything because none of us are. We're learning, and yes, I've been touched in ways that have given me wisdom and knowledge to embark on this journey. My background, I started off decades ago as a journalist back in Nigeria. And then I became a psychotherapist, came to the UK. I went to school in America, Spelman actually. And then I came.
Wait, hold on. We have an HBCU grad and Spelman at that. No wonder your queen aura is so
I thought
great.
I'd just slip that in.
Yes. You are a Spelman woman. I'm so sorry. I taught at Clark Atlanta for 1 year. Earlier
Wow.
in my career as an English teacher, I was an
Okay.
adjunct in the English department. So that always touches my
Yeah.
heart. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, Queen
And,
Spelman.
and to
Yes.
add that, I had two brothers who went to Morehouse. So, we're rapping. We're rapping.
Yes, 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 yes. Okay, so I get it. I get the lineage. I get
Yeah.
your beginnings, your foundation. Okay.
And
All right.
then
So continue. I'm so sorry. I got so excited by that.
and well, when I came to the UK, I worked with women in prison, women who come from war torn countries. I was offering group therapy and healing work with them. And then at some point, had about two or three jobs. I just loved the work I do. Service was what I was all about. And somewhere along the line, I had some health issues, and while I was recovering, which took some time, I had to give up all my jobs, which was very difficult for me. But while I was recovering, I pretty much got what you, I guess, biblically would say, on the road to Damascus. I had that visit where I was told I needed to go into the seminary. And I thought, seminary? Wow. I told my children, they said, Reverend Mom, okay, how's that going to work? And I thought, we ain't gonna tell nobody. I'm just gonna go quietly. We're not telling your dad. I'm just gonna go quietly and see what's gonna come out of it, because I didn't understand it either. And
Uh-huh.
I went in the seminary, and after 2.5 years, I came out. I became an ordained minister, and I thought, well, what is my ministry going to look like? I knew it wasn't necessarily going to be in church. I wasn't going to be that type of minister, but while I asked my elders, they said that, look, all your work throughout your life, you've been ministering. So in that respect, you are a minister. This is just formality. But I think, what it was they wanted me to settle down before they told me what they wanted me to actually do. So taking me through the seminary meant I had to sort of really, I like to think of it as they wanted me to be fully cooked, and to give up my worldly ways, because I thought I was a
Right.
bad. I was traveling everywhere, all this, that, and the other. And and then they showed me the path to go to train as a ancestral healing practitioner. Again, my understanding of that, from a religious background, nothing dogmatic, but just you know my understanding culturally was that ancestral work, that's something you kind of need to leave the dead alone, sort of thing. So I thought, okay, how's this going to look? But I went through the training, and then my ancestors showed themselves. It's like, okay, we got you where we want you to be. And this is the work. Your people did this work, your forefathers, your grandmama, your grandpappy, all of that. So that's how I came into that. And I haven't looked back since.
That is amazing. And what's really relatable is that we're on our own path of doing what we want to do. Something unexpected happens, and then we're left questioning,
Yeah.
and we're left wondering, and we're left realizing that we don't have the power. So you surrendered and you gave yourself over and submitted to this new path, and here you are.
That
But at
part.
first, you were doing your own thing. You were a superstar,
Mhm,
traveling,
mhm,
okay,
But
doing your
they said, no, Mama, that's not what we have in store for you. You've got, and this part of this stage in my life, I'm in my elder years, but and
thing.
then
Still fine, okay.
at this stage they said, this is what you're meant to do. So that's how I got into it.
That is amazing. Well, thank you so much for just sharing a very brief, because I know you can just tell some stories about the multiple layers of your career and adjusting and adapting and being flexible. But that's really what I want our viewers to understand, is that you didn't come into this. I'm giving you deference saying you're an expert, because you have the wisdom, the book knowledge, the spiritual anointing, so all that combined, I consider you to be an expert. But I understand your humbleness for sure. Um, so what I want people to get out of your introduction is that you're just not this ready-made queen. Your crown is just not on position that way and glistening because you just walked into that. You had to live and go through a journey, and you had to submit and change and give up your own ideas of things and go with a more spiritual connection, which you're going to get more into, because I really want our viewers to understand your tradition of the spirit, and the traditional roots and the work that's done, and how beautiful that comes together and empowers us. So my first question for you is, what exactly is generational trauma, and how do we recognize it?
Thank you. But generational trauma is the emotional, psychological, spiritual, and sometimes physical pain that is passed down through families, cultures, and communities over generations. And it is often unspoken, yet it lives in the body, the mind, and the behaviors of descendants. In many African traditions, including Yoruba cosmology, the ancestors are seen as living with us, within us. If past harms were never addressed or healed, their residue remains active. This might manifest as unexplained anxiety, depression, or fears, recurring patterns of dysfunction, family secrets and taboos. That's a big one, and
Yes.
a sense of disconnection from self, land, purpose, a kind of shutdown of the body. And transpersonal psychology affirms that we carry collective memories and unconscious imprints. Indigenous knowledge says trauma that isn't transformed is transmitted. Trauma that isn't transformed is transmitted. If healing doesn't involve the body, it is incomplete. And the Yoruba proverb says, you can only clean what you know. You cannot
Mm.
cover your head without knowing your head. In the African tradition, we say your ori, which translates to head. You come into the world with your ori, which is your destiny. And we're forever trying to be in alignment with it. And if you're not in alignment with your ori, your path will always be wiggly. It will not be straight. And we see many of our people out now who are not aligned with their ori and are lost. So that's the body holds the score. Spirit becomes weighed down, and there's a disconnection from your ori, like I said, your inner essence, and confusion about one's life path, loss of joy, or repeated blockages in relationships or vocation is something we see happening a lot with people in the diaspora. And trauma interrupts the flow of Ashe, which is our spiritual life force. So that's just a small background of how it appears and what it looks like.
Well, I know a lot of our viewers, everything that you were saying, I know they were just like clutching their pearls, like, that's me. I'm going through, what? Is she talking to me? Because everything you were saying, I've experienced. And as I'm in a different season of life, I'm experiencing more of the stress. And I'm wondering, where is this coming from? What is this about? And so, what you're talking about can really help us to unpack why we're behaving the way we are, and how do we process some of the pain that we have experienced. But more importantly, as it pertains to what we're doing here at African Ancestry Link, really connecting people back to home. it's,
Hmm.
it's exciting to find out who you are and what your roots are, but it can also be traumatic once you
Yeah,
learn the truth about some things, and a lot of things start to align as far as history and family secrets and
yeah,
all of
yeah,
that thing. So you can carry a lot of trauma from the finding out of the truth, but
yeah,
you're here to help us to understand how to be empowered so
yeah,
that we know who we are, because we need to know who we are.
yeah.
So, can we really heal from trauma we didn't experience?
Yes, and we must. While we may not have caused the original wound, we live with its symptoms, like we've just said now. We see it, and we're living in times where we're constantly being re-triggered, activated. We can't seem to heal one thing before something else, that scab is peeled again. So we're really at a time and place where that healing is imperative to our survival. Healing inherited trauma is both an act of liberation and reverence. In transpersonal theory, healing is not linear or limited to personal experience. It is spiritual and ancestral. By consciously engaging with the wounds of the past, we can change our future. We become what the Yoruba philosophy calls Ara Olonwa, which is those who are chosen to realign destiny. And again, the Yoruba proverb says, Tí a ò bá mọbi tí a ti ń bọ̀, a ò lè mọbi tí à ń lọ, which is just that expression of when we know where we come from, we can better see where we're going.
Absolutely. And what really stands out from what you just said is spiritual and ancestral. We are hungry for that across the diaspora because we're not taught that. We have a lot of negativity associated with wanting to be curious about those things, like you said, it's seen unchristlike or evil or what have you, or just even the idea of going inward without even getting that deep. We don't have guidance to do that. So ancestral, spiritual, that is what you are here to help us to understand, and how to really tap into that as Black people. Like, that belongs to us. We have that right. Why aren't we
Yes,
using it?
yes, 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 absolutely.
So
Yeah.
absolutely, that is why you are here to help us to do that. And as we're thinking more about this, why do people in the diaspora suffer from this so deeply? Why is it our people? I mean, is it just necessarily because of white supremacy and slavery and that dynamic, or is there more to it?
But the trauma of the African diaspora is layered. There's colonial violence, obviously, slavery, displacement, cultural erasure, systemic racism. These left not just psychological wounds, but spiritual fractures. Men, especially, often carry invisible burdens, the expectation of strength, silence, survival without softness. They're hounded, misunderstood, and often disconnected from safe emotional spaces. Generational trauma shows up in a chronic sense of not belonging, internalized oppression or internalized racism, self hatred, suppressed grief and rage, which shows up unexpectedly, inappropriately, displaced in so many other forms, and disembodiment from heritage and spiritual roots. Healing this requires remembering that strength includes vulnerability and that grief is sacred. So these are just some of the ways that people experience this trauma that they're not consciously aware of.
And it's so important for you, as you are guiding us in this discussion, to help name it, because we're experiencing it, but we don't have any language behind it. We're just stuffing stuff down. We're
Yes,
just
yes,
projecting things on other people, and we
yes.
don't have the language. So now we've defined what this is,
Mm,
how it works against us,
mm,
how it is so heavy. But there's hope here, because my next question to you is, how do we start the healing process? Because it
mm.
is possible.
Yes, it is. Sure. Yes. Healing begins with intention. There has to be intention. There's somewhere within you. It's like they say, if you don't acknowledge the problem, well, acknowledging it is the first point where you can begin to heal. So healing begins with intention. We must slow down to hear what the soul and the ancestors are saying. So a part of you has to have some kind of belief that this is something possible, that this is something that exists. This is your birthright. This is something that is innate. This is something in your DNA. So you can quiet yourself down and stop the noise, because the noise is always there. It's getting louder and louder. But somewhere within you, that inner self, that inner voice, that intuition that we all were born with, but we've somehow lost the trust in ourselves. And so you have to, like I had to quieten down. I had to stop. I had to listen, and I heard. I asked for my ancestors to come into my world. We have to ask. They're there. They're there and waiting for us, but we have to invite them. So they're starting with the intention. Slow down to hear what the soul and the ancestors are saying. And the key steps include listening to your inner voice, your Ori, reclaiming traditional practices such as libation. And people think, oh, these sound like some, huge, grandiose things. No, you wake up in the morning, you greet your elders, you honor them, you thank them for what they've done. You drink some water, drop some water at the front of your doorstep. Very simple things. There's so many ways that you can practice libation. And after altar building, and people say, oh, when they hear an altar, they think, oh, that sounds like something ominous. No, altar is just a place where you keep clean, where you offer, again, honoring loved ones, saying prayers. You can make it however you want. Simple. I have some cowrie shells here. There's so many ways you can make it modern, if you like. It's the intention that is most important. Seeking community support, um, having ceremonies that you can create yourself, whatever that looks like. Again, like I said, when you wake up in the morning, you say something, you pray, you do whatever it is, but do it consistently with intention. Um, Engaging in somatic work to release stored trauma, and naming what has been hidden. Like you said, we have to name these things. Talk to the elders, talk to your older ones, talk to your aunties. You'll be surprised what information they have. So you have to take time to be intentional about it. And transpersonal psychology suggests that we reintegrate the disowned parts of our psyche. Indigenous wisdom reminds us that healing is ceremony. It's not a transaction. It's ceremony. So we have to be keep using the word very intentional about it. There's a Yoruba proverb that says the spirit is the soul and the soul is the spirit.
Amen. And all of that knowledge that you just dropped on us is so important to move forward, because
Yes.
I know for myself as a black person here in America, we can sometimes get burnt out from just the trauma bonding, if you will,
Mm,
just coming
mm,
together and talking about it over and over, and it gets to a point where the toxicity of it, because we're trying to survive it, we're trying
mm,
to help each other through it, but at
mm.
sometimes we don't have this knowledge to help us understand what we can do positively and what
Yes.
words of a life we can begin to speak. We don't know those things because we're so busy trauma bonding about the
Mm.
thing, and we're
Yes.
keeping that thing, alive. And especially
Yes.
in America, we can fall prey to that because there's so every day there's something else
Yep.
attacking, you
Yep.
know, who we are
Yep.
culturally and our
Mm.
blackness. And so
Yep.
it's just this a never ending cycle.
Yep.
But what you said that stood out the most is the word intentional and slowing down. We are so 24-hour busy.
Mm. Mm.
Ridiculous. We are
Yeah.
so busy, like we can't even have a meal without the phone being in the other hand and the
Yep.
fork in the other one. It's just like we have got to get it together and really reconnect with self
Yeah.
and with other human beings. So that
Yeah.
intentionality,
And to trust that we're able to be uh, um you don't have to be attached to all these things that
yes,
I've been told how to think, what to wear,
yes.
everything. And it's a way of controlling our minds. We
It's
see
the
it.
Western perspective. And for the first time in our history, we're being given permission to think back about our roots.
Yes,
You know
yes,
what I mean? So it's like there's that tension there of like, I can go back and practice these things and be more connected to self
yes.
than to what I've been programmed to
and
do.
this and this is something that belongs to us. We're not
Yes,
asking somebody for it. This is something that belong, and this is the part that is so important, that we have to find somewhere within ourselves that we believe that
yes,
we're entitled to what is ours, what is divinely ours. Because I think we've lost that trust of ourselves, and even those who are trying to do it are condemned, or criticized. So
yes,
there has to be. But I like to think of it now that our backs are against the wall. There's nowhere else to
yes,
go. So
exactly.
we need to, from here we rise up or we perish. That
Absolutely.
that for, in my mind, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And going with that idea of, being criticized, and when you're trying to, go into this path, what do you do when the family won't acknowledge the trauma? And you're
Again, this
trying
is
to introduce these things to them, these new ways of thinking and these healing practices. What do you do when they're like, eh?
yeah. I think so. I used to get very angry about that when clients told me that, and I could see the struggle, and people just trying to find their way, find their own way, but we're being attacked or condemned, and a part of me eventually just thought, well, one has to have some grace, because a lot of times people are reacting out of fear, of things that they don't know, afraid of what they feel is losing control of, whatever they've created around them. So if they see someone else trying to do something different, you know, um, they want to stop it, because it makes them feel fearful. But I say to them, you do the work anyway. Once you have made that decision, you follow your path. People will find their own way, and you might be the chosen one in your lineage to break the cycles, and what a blessing that is. So if
Wow.
you in your mind heard that call like I did, and you decide that you want to follow it, then be intentional and do the work anyway. um, in Yoruba traditions, it is accepted that not everyone will understand the spiritual calling of a lineage healer. Sometimes you must walk alone. And that's in all situations in life. Sometimes
Yes.
you must walk alone, so others may walk freely. You're doing the work not for yourself, but for others, those coming behind you, and even those who have gone, because we can heal forward too. So and back, both ways. And it's a spiritual calling of a lineage healer. Sometimes you must walk alone so others may walk freely, like I said. Be the root restorer, the story retriever, the spiritual architect. Yoruba wisdom says we do not resent the one who sweeps the house. If there's somebody who has come to do the cleaning, we are supposed to honor that person. But sometimes you just have to do what you need to do. The healing you do will ripple through the DNA of your family, even if they cannot see it yet. But if you've been called to do this work and you decide to take it up, then you do the work.
Wow. And what a beautiful inspirational message, because I know people are called, and they're sitting with that right now, saying there's something that I'm supposed to do, but folks are resisting me. Maybe I should just give up on that. So your words of encouragement, you hear that, listeners? If you are in this moment where you feel like you're being called, be courageous and be bold and go forward. Absolutely. Oh, I love that. So, speaking of this spiritual calling and just having the bravery to take it up and to move forward with it, what spiritual tools support this healing? How can African spiritual and Western therapy work together, or can it?
Okay, those are two questions there. So the spiritual tools, like I said earlier, ancestral altars, which is, like I said, just a space to remember and connect and honor our loved ones, elders, and higher powers. Dream work is an important one. Ancestors speak through symbols, so be vigilant and observant, because your the wisdom or information may come in ways that are unusual, that you may not be familiar with. But once you've made the decision to do this work, you will recognize when you receive that information. Body centered healing is important, using breath work, movement, or massage to release trauma. And Yoruba spiritual technologies such as prayers, songs, offerings, and invocations. And when I say Yoruba, I am Yoruba, so that's the way that I'm thinking, and I'm coming through that thought. But Africans generally, all these things are not unusual to their to their forebears, or their traditions. So breath work, movement, massage all release trauma. Prayers, songs, offerings, invocations, and community and storytelling, which is again something uh, uh, forebears did. They told stories, they gathered together, they shared remembrance, and it creates collective healing. We all have stories to tell, and sometimes people think. I remember I used to say, because I used to tell my children stories when they were growing up, when I was um, giving them baths and everything, and now they're young adults, and they say they remember those stories, and that I sort of, they actually could see the images of the things that I was saying. And and one of my daughters now, went into filmmaking, she said, your stories, you have some incredible stories. And I thought, really? Not really. She said, yes. And that's somehow, sometimes we minimize things that are experiences in life. We should tell our stories, talk to our children, talk to one another, tell about our life experiences. Here we all have stories to tell that can be very healing. Hearing somebody else's story, can be very healing, and that's something we should do. Healing rituals, ceremonies, help transform pain into power. And we cannot run from what we are born to heal. We cannot run from what we are born to heal. That's really important. And now, the other question you asked was about African spirituality and Western therapy. Can they work together? They work together, and they can be complementary medicines. Western therapy gives us analytical tools, naming psychological processes, and emotional literacy. But African spirituality teaches that the true healing involves spiritual, emotional, physical, and communal harmony. It's much more holistic. When combined, these systems can guide people home to themselves. A therapist may name the wound, while an elder or spiritual guide supports the ancestral and soul level release. One of the Yoruba proverbs that I love says, one road alone does not lead to the market. So there are things that we can do that are complementary, that can enhance the process of healing.
Can you just add, how does nature play a role in that? Because I know when I'm engaging with like flowers, trees in particular,
Mm, mm,
ocean, you know,
mm.
how does that play a role in what you just laid out for us, and like actionable steps that we can take to heal?
Nature is one of the most powerful medicines ever. I've just come back from a 3-week stint in Nigeria, my motherland, and I went to the ocean. My feet were in
Oh,
the water, and I heard my mothers. I heard what the Yoruba traditions call yami. These are the mothers of the world. I heard them in the ocean. I spoke to them. I
yes,
went to rocks. I went to trees. People hug trees here. Nature is such a powerful medicine because we're connected. So
yes,
yes, any opportunity you have, and that's why with the Yoruba cosmology again, it's really important, and it's not just with Yoruba cosmology. Treating your environment with care, with love, because we are connected. So yes, nature is really really important as one of the most powerful medicines that we can reach for.
absolutely. What role do dreams play in generational healing?
Dreams are sacred, I like to call sacred technologies, and particularly in Yoruba tradition. They're not random, they're intentional communications from ancestors, spiritual guardians, and dreams can reveal unresolved lineage pain, offer guidance, or warn of misalignment. As I've gotten older, my dreams have become much more potent, and I pay attention to them a lot more now. I've never been a big dreamer, but as I stepped into this work, and my dreams have become much more vivid. So I know that that's my ancestors also communicating with me. Transpersonal psychology values dreams as access to the unconscious and spiritual dimension. Keeping a dream journal, setting intentions before sleep, and learning the symbols of your culture are key. So that's work that people should endeavor to do. Do the research, learn the symbols of your culture. Healing begins when you listen to your night visions with reverence. And dream is the father of wisdom. So it's really important to listen to what's coming to you through your dreams.
Absolutely. I love everything that you just said, and that alone can totally change a person's, attitude, a person's, um, just the way they feel about themselves when they're going about their day, just to have that um, acknowledgement and just taking the time out to think about it and reflect about it. Because a lot of times we dream and we just kind of cover it up, or we don't tell anybody else about it, or we just kind of bury it or suppress it. So just to actually bring it to the surface and examine it and treat it as, like you said, what was that phrase you said? That dreams are the father of
Dream is
knowledge,
the father of wisdom.
the father of wisdom. My goodness. And just imagine how many dreams we have or had, but we were
Mhm.
too afraid to tell somebody else about it.
Yeah. And,
Or we
and
just
sometimes
devalued
and
it.
sometimes even if you don't know what it means, note it down, because
Right.
the meaning or the explanation may come to you even 3, 4, 6 months down the line. Something
Wow.
you dreamt, it'll make sense to you down the line. So note it down, because when you're intentional, when you've decided to embark on this work on any level, your mind adjusts, it opens up, it welcomes certain things, so you become a lot more, um there's a consciousness that you have, that things will then begin to make sense to you. So note down your dreams. You don't necessarily have to tell anyone if you don't want to, but just note it down. And if there's somebody who you trust and you feel you can talk to. I had a relative say to me the other day that they had a thought or a dream about something, and they um, thought about me because they felt I would be somebody who would understand. So that was a real honor to hear that they felt that they could tell me. So yes,
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is amazing. Can I still do this healing work if I don't know my ancestors' names?
yes. Just bear with me a second. I'm having a little bit of problem with my internet. It's
Okay.
dropping off. So yes, not knowing names does not mean your lineage is inaccessible. Spirit remembers what records forget. Start with intention again and with respect. The unknown are still reachable. In Yoruba, they believe ancestral connection is spiritual and energetic, not only biological or historical. Speak to your ancestors anyway. Offer water, light a candle, ask your questions, and believe that they will answer. That answer may come in many ways, like I said, so be vigilant. Transpersonal traditions affirm that the soul comes with ancestral memory. You are never truly cut off. Begin by honoring the unknown ones. Say, for instance, to the ancestors whose names I do not know, but whose breath is in my body, I honor you. Walk with me. So find your own language, find your own words, but be intentional.
That is so powerful because so many of us, for whatever reasons, we have fragmented families, fragmented stories, you know, missing information where we just genuinely don't know.
Yeah.
And maybe we are ashamed or afraid of that, what people will think of us because we don't have those connections, or we're not readily able to speak to those, traditions or family histories. So you have empowered people. It does not matter if you don't know the names or not.
No.
That breath is still in you. Do you know
Yes.
how powerful that is? So even if you
Yes.
don't know, you are still leaning forward and carrying that forward.
I share. Yes, indeed.
Wow. Wow. So let's shift gears a little bit, because there is a lot of, when you're talking about this type of cultural work, a lot of people, are on the fence about, is this evil? Is this like voodoo? Is this that? So, how do I explain this work to those who see it as unchristian or just flat out evil?
Thank you, sis. This question I can spend the whole day answering, but I'm going to try to make it fit it in. This is a big one. This is a big one, and this is really important and nuanced, and even complex. A question, because although I'm very clear and comfortable and at peace with it as it relates to me and my beliefs, I know it's a question that many people are troubled about, they wrestle with. It stops them from stepping into this work. And spiritual healing is often misunderstood due to centuries of colonized theology that separated African people from their spiritual roots. Yoruba spirituality honors Olodumare, the supreme creator, alongside ancestral spirits or orishas or deities who serve as divine messengers and cosmic forces. I know for a lot of people in my culture, all of that immediately I can see them recoil at it. But this is our lineage. This is our heritage. These are the things that our forefathers and foremothers believed in, and it sustained them. They had systems in place. These are not deities in conflict with God, but sacred expressions of God, God's order in nature and the human soul. As an ordained minister and an ancestral healing practitioner, I stand at the intersection of faith and tradition. I know intrinsically and deeply that there is no contradiction between walking with Christ and honoring your ancestors. The Bible itself is full of genealogies and ancestral remembrance. Honoring your ancestors is not idol worship, it is respect, it is spiritual accountability and continuation. It is not something to be afraid of or to to speak bad of. It has already been done. That's already been done to us. We don't need to continue that. Many African Christians and Muslims carry private reverence for their ancestral lineage and visit traditional spiritual healers, even if they don't speak about it publicly. Islam too honors lineage and forbids the severing of family ties. It teaches about barakah, which is a spiritual blessing, which is often passed down through bloodlines. When people question this work, I often ask, is it truly evil to want to heal what has been broken in your family? Is it ungodly to bless your mother's memory or pray for guidance from those who walked before you? Yoruba proverb says, "Let us know the true source of our power." In my opinion, to reject your roots because of fear or misunderstanding is to reject the gifts of God placed in your bloodline. True healing requires both reverence and revelation. This work is sacred, it is divine, and it restores what colonial systems tried to erase, which is your holy connection to those who made you. Everyone has to find their own path. That's how I feel about that.
Oh, and that is it's so beautiful because this information, this pouring out of love, this guidance that you're giving us, you're not getting this in a book unless you are, understanding of those who are writing about this. But in terms of just every day, you're not picking this up and internalizing this good information. As Black people, we're not getting that. Where do you get that unless you're getting that in your home, unless you're seeing someone in community model these things for you? But a lot of us just do not have access to this type of information. And so that's why African Ancestry Link, we are just so proud to be able to be affiliated with just wonderful people like you that can help us on this very big journey that we're trying to embark on to
Yes,
self.
yes,
And it's gonna require so many people like yourself that have this very intricate knowledge of culture and of our heritage to help guide us. I just feel like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and set up an altar later on and get myself together. Okay, so I just feel inspired because it's really about, I think about, talk about Christianity, and I think about Jesus, and I think about how he takes the lowest of people. You don't have to be, how you were jet setting and you had the titles and the accolades and all that. You can just be an everyday common person that is going to practice this cultural heritage preservation, and say to
preservation.
yourself, I'm led I'm really inspired to do this. I feel like I can do this. And
Yes.
this is what you say, this is your right.
Yes.
This is your right to
You're
do this.
right.
Like, you don't have to be anybody special. The least will be elevated to royalty.
Yeah.
It's for all of us. It's a circular movement. And
Yeah.
and and, and I can speak for those of us on American soil. We have this Eurocentric way of everything is a competition, it's a
Yeah.
hierarchy, and it's in conflict with what's inside of us
Yeah.
when we interact with more Eurocentric circles, when we are behaving in a more cultural,
Yeah.
circular manner,
Yeah.
it disrupts everything.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
just like, what is going on? You're being respectful and you're letting people in and you're not trying to cut each other
Yep.
down.
Yep.
It blows people's minds,
Yeah.
even people that are of other diverse cultures, because we've been indoctrinated
Yeah.
to that hierarchy.
Yeah.
So everything that you're talking about is just like, wow, that sounds amazing, because that we were separated from that. So
Yes.
saying to me, I'm just like falling in love with it, like for the first time,
Yeah.
because again, that was kept from me. But I know innately it's making sense. It's drawing me near.
That
You know what
part.
I mean? So
That
it's
part.
like,
Yep. Yep.
yes,
And
yes,
we need community. I mean, not just Africans in the diaspora. Community is needed everywhere. But
yes,
as Africans, that's something that comes naturally to us.
yes,
So, this is stuff, it's just going back to reclaim what's already in us. When I stepped into this work, like I said, I didn't know much about it. But once I stepped into it and I was intentional, it was a light, like a light bulb. It just switched on and everything, like my DNA just woke up because it's in
yes,
me. I didn't have to struggle, to access
yes,
the stuff. So that's really important to understand that we have something special, and
yes,
we're at a time and place in the world where everybody's trying to find their corner. Everybody's trying to get their groups together. We need to do what we need to do to enhance our people, for us to come out of this darkness,
yes.
that is the shadow, that everybody, we can see it. It's not even hidden anymore. So there's work for us to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. My very last question for you: how can men begin their healing journey when they feel shame or shut down?
To our brothers, our kings.
Yes,
Beloved,
yes,
I bow to you, because men have their struggles are big. And by giving themselves permission to feel is the first step. To
mm,
allow, this is hard work. And I'm not an authority on men, so I'm just going to say the few things that I think as a starting step that maybe will speak to the men. Like I said, by giving themselves permission to feel, by finding safe spaces to exhale,
mm.
find the brotherhood, speak life into each other. It's so important, and call each other out when you need to. By speaking the unspoken, there's so many things that men feel afraid to speak on, ashamed to speak on. You have to speak it. You have to name it. And this is not about weakness. It's an ancient strength, ancestral wisdom. A man who admits he's in pain is a friend to his own soul.
Wow.
A man who admits he's in pain is a friend to his own soul. So start with yourself and reach out to your brother. And that's what I will say. Like I said, I just want to say that we see you, we witness what you're going through, and we honor you.
Absolutely. And I would want to add to that too, because I know a lot of our black boys are really struggling
Yeah.
before they even hit the trajectory of manhood, and trying to figure out what that means,
Mm.
what their role is.
Mm.
A lot of young boys don't know what their role is, and I know a lot of people are going to say, well, the father isn't there. In many instances, fathers are there,
Mhm.
grandfathers, uncles are there too. But I don't think it's explicitly explained to
Yeah.
boys that there is a particular role that you have, and we are going to help guide you to do that. And I think that's an action, a call to action for all of us
Yeah.
in our communities. Like, we have to step up, no matter who we are, what we have, what we don't have, what title we have, what title we don't have, just out of the process of living. And you have the luxury of having gone through a phase of life.
Mm.
You are more than equipped to help pour into someone else
Yeah.
as they are getting ready to, go through that same process that you just went
Mm.
through or you've been through before. But I
Mm.
can speak as an educator, working in public schools. Black boys really struggle. They really struggle with their identity. They struggle with trying to navigate toxic masculinity.
Mm. 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 Mm.
And there's just so much pressure on young boys before they
Yeah.
even can get to the manhood, just of
Yeah.
trying to navigate and figure out. And so I know you talked a lot about men, but do you have any nuggets of wisdom of how can we nurture boys, even if you don't have children? I know a lot of women are like, well, I don't have kids, so I'm not in the conversation. You're a woman, you still have the ability to guide folks, because I'm gonna tell you, when I'm out in public, I don't care where I am, strange teenage or children will attract to me, and I don't know if that's an anointing or if that's, I don't know, but they will come to me, they will find me, and
Mm.
I'm like, where is your mama? But they will come and talk to me and just start telling me things. And I had to learn that even though I'm not someone's mother, I still
Mm.
have the responsibility
Mm.
when I'm in a public space, or if I have
Mm.
access to a child, or a child is doing something or they need guidance, I gotta touch them.
Yeah. I mean, you are their mama. Even though you didn't birth them, and that's important. I know I have that experience a lot of times, and I always it's about speaking kindness, speaking love to for just that moment, and you'll be amazed at how powerful that, because that's ministry too. And like
Yes,
I said, ministry is not always an hour and a half in church. Sometimes it's just 5-10 minutes with someone, and you're passing, we're passing each other, and like that famous I don't know, philosopher who said that we're walking each other home. you know for instances in our lives, we connect, and if we can show somebody love, grace, kindness, hopefully they will internalize that. They will remember that at a point when they're struggling. They remember the kindness that that auntie showed them, or that person who mothered them for those 5 minutes. So yes, I think everybody should do that with each other anyway. But with the young boys who really, like I said, there's so much confusion of who they're supposed to be, and as well as black men who they've been criticized so much
yes,
constantly that sometimes they don't even know how to take kindness. They don't know what it looks like. They almost reject it. But sometimes
yes.
we just need to just do it, because that's what we should do.
Absolutely.
It's part of
Absolutely.
our
Well,
role.
this has been such an informative, spiritual, just warm, like a warm hug, this conversation. It has empowered me, it has inspired me, just to really lean more into the cultural aspects, and really revive and reclaim what already belongs to me. So I'm excited about that. And the idea of talking to the ancestors, I do it all the time. And I even find myself like talking out loud
Mm.
to them, and
Yep.
having a whole conversation. Cause
Hmm.
like, my mom is in heaven now. So I'll just be like, girl, I'll just have a whole conversation with her. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because I,
yeah,
I, I still
yeah.
feel the line is open.
Yes, the line is open. If you
Yes.
engage with them, name them. There are, well, I always say ancestors will never die. Just name the names. Name our people's names. Those who have gone before. They are around. They're
Yes.
just waiting for us. But we need to reach out to them, because they're there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for this conversation. And before we go, we want to share your contact information, but just tell us briefly, like, what are you working on now?
What about, oh, I have a lot of things in the pipeline. And I
Okay.
want to quickly say, if this conversation stirred something in you and out there, if you're ready to stop carrying what doesn't belong to you, if you're longing to reconnect with your forebears, your spirit, your truth, I offer personalized and bespoke support for your healing journey. And from ceremonial guidance to deep ancestral lineage sessions, I hold safe, sacred space for your transformation. And you can connect with me on my website. I think it'll be written there somewhere, and you can explore. I have a whole range of upcoming offerings soon to be posted. So keep an eye on that. And I'm waiting for you. I'm waiting to share your journey with you. I'm on LinkedIn, IG, Facebook, and yeah, this is the time. Do it.
Ah, I love that. Well, thank you so much again for being at what I consider our expert guest, okay? Because you brought the information, the wisdom, the actionable steps and community. Remember, we are calling you to action.
Yes.
Begin to reclaim these ceremonial rituals that belong to us. It's your right. Thank you so much, Reverend
And
Gloria.
before I go, is it okay to close with a quick prayer? Is there time for that?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank
Absolutely.
you.
And on the
So,
screen, before you do that, on the screen, we want to remind all of our viewers join us back here tomorrow. We're going to be back live tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern Time for our book club launch. We're going to be talking to author James Mazingo. He's going to be talking about his book called House of the Fathers. You don't want to miss that event.
mm,
All
mm.
right. So take us on out, sister. Take
Thank
us out.
you. Thank you. So, Divine Creator, Olodumare, we give thanks for this sacred space, for truth spoken, the tears released, and the healing that has begun. We honor our ancestors, known and unknown, who stood with us today. May their wisdom continue to whisper through our dreams. May their strength anchor us in moments of doubt. We release what no longer serves us and reclaim what is ours to carry: peace, purpose, and power. We walk forward, now guided, blessed, and whole in the understanding that healing is not a moment, it is a movement. It is remembering a homecoming. May it be so. Ashe Olodumare. Ashe Mudupe.
Ashe. Ashe. Yes, I am energized. Thank you so much. And we look forward to our continued partnership and continued guidance from you throughout this move. Because this is a movement. This isn't just a one and done.
Yes.
Like, we are here to stay and we are here to keep pouring information, knowledge, and guidance into our community. Thank you so much, Reverend Gloria.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye, everybody.